Hello, I'm Carl Baker and welcome to this Inspire for Academicals tutorial on setting actions. Let's move straight on by signing in and F11 to expand the screen. Okay, we're now at the set action stage. This is where we will choose barriers and set actions that we can try out or work on to overcome that barrier. We're also at the set action stage in the cycle. So let's click the card. First of all, the system will choose which barrier you're going to work on. This is to avoid the human nature element where we will tend to work on the easiest barriers and push to the bottom those that we find more difficult or we don't think we can overcome or whatever. Here the system will take you through every barrier and work on every barrier as you work through the cycles. What the system's asking you to do is to choose two or to come up with two actions that you believe can overcome or work towards overcoming this barrier. The actions, you will only actually carry out one of these actions, but you have to, as you can see the red star here, have to come up with at least two options. And you need to, these actions that you come up with, you need to be able to carry out before this date that the system has chosen based on the pace of your challenge. Now, in your case, you may want to carry out these actions and review them before your next group meeting. You certainly should not carry out or come up with an action that you can only carry out after your group meeting. You want to actually complete that beforehand. So we need to come up with two different types of actions, two action options that we could carry out that we believe will either overcome or work towards overcoming or removing this barrier. So first of all, the barriers I need to identify all ways of finding a job. So what can we come up with? Okay, create a list of all the ways to find a job. Okay, and now when you're choosing actions, you don't have to come up with the most perfect solution to overcome this barrier. Sometimes it's nicer to just come up with actions that take you step at a time towards overcoming that barrier. The feeling of achievement of overcoming a small or actually carrying through a small action is better than trying to come up with the most brilliant solution and finding that more difficult. So don't think you have to come up with the perfect answer. Just something that works towards achieving that barrier is good enough. The first option you come up with can be the one off the top of your head. The second one is more challenging, which is what Inspire does. It challenges you to think and reflect harder. And this might be something that you know somebody you respect and you think, well, what would they do? And you'd be surprised at what you can come up with. It may be something you've tried before in the past and it's never worked for you. Now, with Inspire, it's very different when you try something out because you're going to be able to review it and learn a lot from it. So just because you tried it before and it didn't work doesn't mean you don't try it again, but this time through the Inspire system. It might be something that someone suggested to you, again, that you've resisted. Well, you know, or something is a little bit out of the box. Whatever it is, you need to come up with a second one. So in this case, let's look at, we've done create a list. I know, let's do the same sort of thing. Ask friends to help identify all ways of finding a job. Okay. Now, the important thing to remember here is that in both these cases, I have put in an answer that is complete. It stands on its own and is fully understandable if read in the future on its own. If I'd have put create a list, I wouldn't know in the future when I read it what I meant. So I've put create a list of all the ways to find a job. Ask friends to identify all ways of finding a job. So when I read it in the future, I'll know exactly what I'm going to carry out. Now, down here, we've then got two questions we need to answer, two decisions to make on each of these two actions. First one is, how easy is it for you to carry out this action? Well, creating a list of all the ways to find a job, well, it's pretty straightforward, so I'm going to put easy. Next is, if this action was successful, what is the likelihood of this barrier being removed? So if this worked really well, what chance is there that it would actually remove this in total? Well, I don't think it would. And create a list of all the ways to find a job. I need to identify ways of finding a job. Yeah, I'll research on the internet. Maybe, yeah, okay, there's a high chance of removal. Ask friends to help identify all ways of finding a job. Well, I can do it. It's a bit tougher than simply sitting down and writing a list. And what chance of success of overcoming this barrier? Some chance. Okay, once I've done that, I then need to press an execution button. The green button isn't available, but the blue forward arrow is, which means there's another section to complete. I can press the red button. This would throw all of this away, leave this card here so that you can come back to it at a future stage to complete it, maybe tomorrow or whenever. Press the forward arrow. The system has chosen which action we're going to work on. In this case, create a list of all of the ways to find a job. So the system has chosen of the two actions I put in, it's chosen which one I'm going to work on. And if this action was to be carried out at a certain time on a certain day, I can get Inspire to send me a reminder by putting it in here. I'm not going to have a reminder, so I click the green button, and that action is now set. But first it comes up with a yellow box saying that I have 3 barriers left. I had 4. I've now set an action on one of them. So I've got 3 barriers left. And I have 1 action, which I've just set up. Do I want to add another action? In other words, do I want to add another action to another barrier? Well, the system has a limit of 3 actions that you can carry out in any one cycle. I strongly suggest that you carry out 3 actions if you have 3 barriers. If you have less than that, 2 barriers, then obviously you can only carry out 2 actions. If you have 4, then you can still only carry out 3 actions on 3 barriers. I would suggest that if you have 3 or more barriers, that you do set 3 actions. So we'll say yes. It's now come up with a card with the action we just set. Create a list of the ways to find a job. It's now come up with the next barrier I've got to work on. I need to create a CV. Or a good CV. So, I know, research what makes a good CV. So here I'm doing a step towards creating a good CV. I could throw myself into trying to create a good CV. I think this would make it a lot easier and a lot more effective when I do it. So it's a step towards it. Create what makes a good CV. And identify areas in my CV that need improving. Again, a step towards when I'm ready to actually create my better CV. So how easy is it for me to carry out this action? Research what makes it. Well, I can do it. I won't say it was brilliantly easy. What's the likelihood of overcoming this barrier? Well, no, it's a step towards it, so some chance of removal. Identify areas in my CV that need improving. I can do it. What chance of this action overcoming this barrier? Some chance. Forward arrow. It's chosen research what makes a good CV. I'm not going to set a reminder for that. You have 2 barriers left to work on this challenge. You currently have 2 actions, so we're going to create a third action. It's now giving me another challenge card, research what makes a good CV. And the next out of the 4 barriers, it's chosen the next one. I need to be excited in finding a job. Okay, give myself a reward every time I find, what should we say, 2 jobs I can apply for. Now here I've chosen an action that set me a target. I could have put 12, whatever. I've made it nice and easy so that I have the satisfaction of I should be able to achieve this. So I have the satisfaction of achieving a step towards achieving this barrier. So yes, there will be some excitement in doing that. Is it easy to do? Well, yes. I've only set myself 2 as a target rather than 10 or whatever. What chance of removal? Well, yes, it would. The sense of satisfaction will be there, but I'll say it's some chance of removal. Next one is, I'm going to, along the same lines, plan a holiday that I can go on. I won't. We'll say 6 months, because I don't want to get a job and then immediately ask for a holiday. But 6 months, I've left a gap there, so let's take that gap out. 6 months after I get a job. Okay. Now, you may choose something different or whatever. But here, I think this makes me feel really excited, because if I go and get the brochures, I work out how much money I've got, I think I'll be able to save over the 6 months. And I can actually tangibly see and work out, this is the holiday I'd love to go on. And it's something really motivational for me. So, yeah, it's easy to do, and I think there's a high chance of me being excited by that. Click the forward arrow. I'm not going to set myself a reminder on that. And now, because I've got 3 actions and the system limits me to 3, it hasn't come up with the yellow box asking me to set another action. It's moved straight on. If I'd have only had 1 barrier and I set 1 action, the system would move me on. Okay, I've got 3 action cards here now with the 3 actions that I need to try out, and I'm now at the carry out action stage. Now, when I set these 3 actions up, the system will send me an email. If I just go and have a look in my email box, here's something I set up earlier. And you can see that it's sent me the card that I need to carry out this action by a date and what the action is. The barriers: I need to find ways of finding a job, create a list of ways to find a job. So it will send me 1 card for each of the actions that I set up. I would highly suggest that you print that out, pin it above your computer, keep it on you until you've carried out those actions as a reminder. And it'll send you 1 of those email cards for each of the actions you set up. Okay, now the next stage is when you come to review each of these actions. So there's nothing more you can do until you've actually gone away and tried these actions out. Now, to review these actions, you simply click one of these cards. So, in other words, you can come back, say I completed this action, research what makes me a good CV. I can open up Inspire, click this card and review this particular action. And then go away and wait until I've carried out these other actions and then come back and review these. Or I can complete all 3 actions and then come back and review all 3 of them in one go. But that's the next stage, is the review. You don't actually have a review card. It's simply the actions that are displayed as challenge actions. Click them and that will be the review. And that's it. The next tutorial will be on how we review these actions. Thank you very much for your time.